What is up? My name is Chris Rubio, host of your new favorite show on NGBN.TV. This is Decades. I was too excited. I'm very, very excited for this week. This is episode 14. We're going to cover 3 topics. Before we get to those topics, let me remind you of the show. We've got guys from their 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, and 20s. We're going to talk about topics that you normally would not talk about. Who's helping me out tonight? Before I get to the panel members, let me get to our director, producer, editor, boom man, lighting expert, and most importantly, corraller. Give it up for Ed McAndrew, not McAndrews. What's up, Sub 60 Ed?
Rubio, what's going on, my friend? It seems like I get more roles each episode, which is, I guess, cool.
Well, the main role you're getting nowadays, because we have that text thread going, it seems to be corraller, where you just kind of corral everyone. Someone in the text thread is always poking the bear. I don't know who that is.
Yes.
And you kind of could just corral the animals.
Yeah, it's kind of like herding cats.
Yes.
It's coming, like that. But it looks like we got a full house tonight. You ready to get at it?
Yeah, and the way we're going to do tonight is we're going to do it a little different. We've got more people on the panel because more people wanted to be on the panel. And what we're going to do is if they raise their hand, they stick a finger up, they can do whatever. I'm calling on them. I'm not just randomly calling on someone. If they don't want to talk, they don't have to talk. I do not care. Speaking of our panel, we've got 7 of them. Let's start with the oldest because these 2 were not here last week. I don't know what they were doing. First off, representing our 60s, we've got Jay Gaskell, otherwise known as the Judge. He's an Idaho native, an avid Seahawks fan. He's a retired district court judge, which I guess means he's something. And he makes the best old-fashioned in the Northwest, allegedly. Give it up for Judge Jay Gaskell.
He's left the building.
Oh, he left the building. Okay, well, we'll come back to him. Judge is not exactly what you call a technological genius, so this could be a while. He actually lives right next door to me, so there's 2-to-1 odds he just walks over and gets on my camera. We'll start now with representing our 60s again, Bill Geiser. Bill is an entrepreneur, a wearable tech guru, a phenomenal swimmer with 2 great kids that lives in Florida. What's up, Bill Geiser?
Hey, guys. Sorry I missed you last week. Glad to be back this week.
Absolutely. Representing our 50s, we've got 2 guys. We're going to start with an Idaho native, cybersecurity consultant, enjoys outdoors, and he only owns 1 gun. Give it up for Jim Gingrich.
Hello, and I will not be corralled.
You're a wild steed, James. Wild steed. Also, representing the 50s, we've got Alex Chris. Alex is originally from the Ukraine, grew up in the USSR, software developer who currently lives in Los Angeles, likes gadgets, good beer, and guns. And yes, he does sound like Gru from Despicable Me. What's up, Alex Chris?
Greetings from the People Republic of California.
Fantastic. Representing our 30s, Joe Nolan. He's going to be here the whole episode today, not just the last 4 seconds of it. Resides in Philly, entrepreneurial spirit, works in real estate and small business finance at tech startup and community involvement. Runs 10-mile races in Warzone and has a couple great shirts that he likes to show off. Give it up for Joe Nolan.
Das Vidanias, jabronis. How you guys doing?
All right, number 6, we've got a 2-time wiffle ball champion. I don't know if he's still fighting through a sprained ankle injury to be here tonight, and he's really into AI blondes in bikinis. Give it up for Charles Wallace Jr. I call him Chalice.
What's up, guys? I am still fighting through the sprained ankle. I couldn't walk last week. Now we're in a boot, but I fight the good fight every week to be here.
You got to do what you got to do, and we appreciate your spirit. And last but not least, we've got Cruz Rubio. He's representing our 20s as well as a student athlete in Middle California. It's not Southern California. It's not Northern California. He likes to barbecue, argue, wear chanclas, and go to the beach. Give it up for Cruz Rubio.
Howdy.
The judge is back.
The judge is back. Oh, fantastic. What an entrance by the judge. Where is he? I still don't see him. He's so small. All right.
Hey.
Welcome back, Judge. Bad Wi-Fi, Judge?
The prune juice kicked in.
I think Ed threw me out of the corral, maybe.
Yeah, you're in a different room. And seeing the words "my sunshine" above your head is not exactly perfect.
It's perfect. I thought maybe it was on my end, but I'm pretty sure Ed just threw me out of the corral.
It could be. It could be. All right. So last week we covered AI. Chalice told us he's very into blondes with bikinis, no matter if they're AR or not. So that's a whole issue we can cover later. But one of the big things we talked about was Hunter Biden. And after the episode, I had several people email me, text me, and say, hey, we really want to hear what the judge and Joe Nolan have, because they obviously tend to lean, we'll say, one way to the left. So, Joe, what is your thought on this whole Hunter Biden thing coming out? He, confessed, allegedly, whatever, does all this stuff. What's your thoughts on this, Joe?
I mean, it seems to me that there's some favoritism or just some like advantage given, but no more than you'd expect from someone who's a first-time offender. I mean, the guy that actually prosecuted was the only special attorney that remained from the Trump White House to the Biden White House, specifically so he could finish his investigation. He didn't find anything that rose to the level of treason. He said that he had complete autonomy the entire way. So I'm going to trust the judicial system to come up with a plea deal. He's a private citizen. He's never held public office. And, it sucks. I mean, it's really a guy that struggled with addiction and made a ton of bad decisions. And, I think that there's like a lot of humility that's been shown on one side and a lot of just attacking a guy at his lowest moment on the other. And it's kind of telling.
Yeah, I was going to go, and I'll agree with you. He obviously has an addiction problem. The guy's got some major issues. I think at one point he said he was snorting Parmesan cheese off the ground because he thought it was some Tootskies or cocaine.
We've all been there, Rubio. Don't lie.
That's obviously kind of an issue there. As the judge, yet again, he's got a laptop that he keeps moving around. I don't know what he's doing. Bill, guys, you had your hand up. What did you want to say?
Well, first thing is a question for Joe. Hey, Joe, you said he's a first-time offender. Which one was it, the gun charge or the tax evasion? Which one's first?
I'm not the guy that charged him or came up with the plea agreement. I'm just trusting the guy that did.
You're just trusting the news is what you're trusting. So the other thing I'd have to say about it is if this guy really is, and the evidence seems to point this way, the bag man for the big guy, throw the book at him and his old man. Enough of this stuff. There seems to be plenty of evidence. Let's get to the bottom of it. And if they broke the law, jail them. If not, everyone needs to shut up.
I would agree with that. Judge, now that you're back online again and you're in a totally different room at this point, hopefully you're sitting on your modem. What is your thought on this whole Hunter Biden issue? And he's frozen. Okay, no, he's back. Oh my God. And mute the judge until he gets at least next to some sort of rotary Wi-Fi. James, I see you chomping at the bit there.
There was over 400 crimes documented on the laptop, not the least of which is doing cocaine and fucking his niece. So, I mean, I don't feel that sorry for him. The guy committed tax fraud. He committed felony gun ownership. I mean, he's done more than most criminals do in their entire lifetime. So I don't know why he gets a plea deal. It doesn't speak at all to fairness in the courts.
Well, what does anyone ever ask the thought of? Okay, this he's getting off for tax evasion because he owes like $5 million in taxes or something. Has anyone ever asked where is the tax? What is he paying tax on? Like if he doesn't have a job, which Joe said, if you don't have a job, I'm pretty sure hobos don't pay taxes. So what's the deal? Like, I don't understand. What am I missing here?
How many rooms does the judge have?
That's a big house.
Jesus.
Where's Waldo?
Judge, are you okay now?
I don't know. I think Ed's doing this to me.
Judge, if you go out again, just walk next to me and just come over here. I have a chair, and I'll get a little phone book for you to sit on.
Thanks.
Okay, Judge, now that we're here, do you have anything to say about the Hunter Biden thing?
I don't know what the big deal is. He's a rich white guy. Of course he's going to get favoritism.
So, okay, on that note, then what about, how come the Democratic Party is always talking about, what's it called? White, not representation.
Privilege.
White privilege. Thank you, Brew. White privilege. You don't hear them talking about that.
Like,
He's out again.
Oh, Jesus, for the love of God. John, can you chime in?
I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Like, there's like a lot to be angry about in the world right now. I mean, you could be just as angry about the Trump kids getting $2 billion from Saudi Arabia against the advice of their advisory committee. You could be angry at Ivanka Trump for getting, very valuable China patents only after her dad became president after being on hold for 10 years. I mean, You could be angry at a dozen things. It's all corrupt politics. It's half of what we spend our time talking about here. Like, both sides get favoritism. There's two different legal systems in this country, whether you have power and money or if you don't.
But I agree with you, Joe. I agree with you 100%. But my question still goes back to, why is he paying taxes? What is he paying taxes on? And why? The next question would be, if he's on this Burisma board for Ukraine, where he's getting it was like $80,000 a month. Like, why is he there? Why is no one allowed to ask that question?
It's just, I'm not a forensic accountant. I don't know why you're asking me or anyone here. I mean, none of us have seen the information or asked them. I mean, there's a lot of documents out there, but I mean, why would I waste my time with that when it just isn't something that will ever affect me or my life? Like, the Hunter Biden thing is just, it just feels so insignificant considering the amount of attention it's getting. And I feel like it really wraps into what we've talked about a ton about, like, the media being broken. And it's really frustrating because I feel like sometimes we talk about the media being broken and then we just parrot broken media narratives.
I agree. I agree with you, Charles. I'm going to come to you in a second. But let's say 3 years ago, 95% of America had never heard of Ukraine. Then you hear that Hunter Biden is working for Ukrainian companies on their board. And now we're funding Ukraine. I mean, it's like all of a sudden you've never heard the word Ukraine, and now it's all hell's breaking loose. Charles, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I mean, as I touched on it last week with Hunter Biden, it's tough for me to sit here and just say, it's white privilege. It's white privilege because I'm white, and I know if I did the things that he did, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I'd be in a cell. And again, we're talking about he's a first-time offender this, he's a first-time offender that. We're not talking about the fact that he's a junkie pedophile. We're talking about tax evasion and a gun charge. It's bullshit. He's a pedophile. There's so many other things that you can talk about here, and we're still sitting here talking about this. Like, they want you to look left so that you don't see what's going on right in front of you.
Bill Geiser.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are the charges against Hunter Biden. You know, the pedophile charges, the tax evasion, the illegal gun thing. But I think that's immaterial compared to the biggest issue, which is he is reportedly acting as the guy interfacing with the Chinese Communist Party, taking bribes on behalf of his father. That's what they're really alleging at this point. And they've got WhatsApp recordings of him shaking down these Chinese dudes for what, 10 million bucks or 5 million bucks, some big amount. That to me is what's really concerning. What it suggests is Joe was selling the US government out. And if that's the case, that's treason. That's a big crime, and we need to get to the bottom of that. Find out if it's real or not.
I agree with you. And before the judge pops on again, we're going to jump to commercial. Ed, show us our first one before the judge blacks out again.
Hello, my name's Ian Hill. And when I'm not training to be the oldest man to play NCAA Division I college football, I'm the CEO of NGBN TV. Our mission's pretty simple. Educate, equip, entertain, support, and inspire men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. It's a one-stop shop for all that a man in his middle ages needs to be his best. So once you come and join us, come and be a part of NGBN TV. Now back to our show.
Welcome back. My name is Chris Rubio. We've got Alex, Chris, Bill, Geiser, James Gingrich, Joe Nolan, the judge, Cruz Rubio, and Charles Wallace. We've already touched on Hunter Biden again. I think we're going to stay away from that for right now. Next topic we're going to talk about is the threat of U.S. national security from abroad. Is there an issue? Is there more of an issue than there was 5 years ago, 10 years? Are we headed in the right direction or the wrong direction? Guru, we'll jump off with you because this was your topic.
Well, I think, in continuing from what Bill was saying, as far as Hunter involvement with China and potentially Joe Biden's involvement with China, I think among the all threats that the U.S. faces right now, as far as from abroad, I think China is probably the biggest one, in my opinion, or one of the biggest ones, simply because they have so many people. And so many people who study in the USA, as students legally, and then they potentially can steal some secrets and go back and basically make China a better country, okay? And to a detriment of the USA. That's why I think China is the biggest threat at this point. And it's been that way since probably like 70s, but slowly and clearly, China became bigger and bigger threat over the years.
Gru, that was a very good answer, and I appreciate you talking slower, because I got to be honest, when you start speaking up quickly, I cannot understand one thing you're saying. So
okay, I'm learning.
You throttle down that accent. I mean, I want the accent, but the slower you talk, the more I'm picking up what you're dropping. So
sure.
Fantastic on that. James Gingrich, G-Man, what's your thoughts on this?
I think there's a lot of facts I can get into, but one thing, when you look at your leader, you want to feel inspired. And when you look at it from outside the country, you want to have some respect and fear. And we have a guy that waddles around like he just shit his pants, who says he sold state secrets in front of world leaders and just generally looks like a fucking idiot, giving $80 billion worth of stuff to Afghans. So I think he is the biggest threat. And beyond that, if they prove these charges, he's been a threat for a long time. He's been strong arming people into getting his things. Joe's like, should be mad about Trump's kids. Well, they didn't threaten people and do it illegally. Yeah, they're spoiled, but there's a whole different bridge to cross there. That's not the same thing.
Judge, since you are the closest in age to Joey B, what's your thoughts on what Jim just said? Like, does he show off weakness?
Well, relating it to the current president is ridiculous. That's not what causes a threat to the country. I mean, at least he's not best friends with Putin and North Korea like the previous president was. So I would agree with Alex. I think the biggest threat is China. I don't think it has anything to do with who's president, though. And I don't think it has anything to do with the people studying from China in the United States. I think, obviously, the threat is not they're going to invade us. The threat is technology and shutting down electrical systems and messing with the internet. And it's got nothing to do with the president. I think that's ridiculous.
Cruz, we'll go Cruz, Joe, and then Bill. Cruz, go ahead.
Yeah, I would say kind of agreeing a little bit with what Alex said, but also what James said. I think, for one, China is a huge threat to the U.S. when it comes to both military size and overall control. I think that they have a ton of technology that's continuing to advance. And I think it does have something to do with the president. I mean, you saw what China did with the hot air balloon, sending it over America, and the current president and current administration didn't do shit about it until it got all the way past. I'm not necessarily – there's no way to prove it, but I don't believe that with the past president, that shit would have flown whatsoever. So I think it does has a little bit to do with the current president and what he can give and what he can take. But so far, it's been a lot of give and not a ton of take.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure El Trumpo would have gotten Air Force One himself and blown that balloon out with like a Red Ryder BB gun or something. Joe Nolan.
We're in a really interesting geopolitical time. Oh, crap. Did I just freeze?
No, you're good. You're good. You're good.
Okay. On one hand, U.S. just got the deal of the century. We ended up spending something like 5.6% of the Pentagon budget, and we just saw like the first serious challenge to Putin's Russia in 20 years, just based off of sending some HIMARS over to the Ukrainians. While at the same time, our strategists get to test their best theories against what was thought to be the second best army in the world. But what's really scary is the world is gearing up for a big war. People have congealed with NATO. You got Sweden and Finland joining with Norway to create like this new Norwegian Air Force that's going to be a unified command. You got Germany and Japan arming up for the first time since World War II. You got China creating their third generation of aircraft carriers and pushing further and further out into these like man-made islands they're making in like the Sea of China. Like realistically, the world is gone from a single pole around the United States and a rebuilding Europe after World War II and is getting ready for a big fucking world war. At least everyone's getting their hands ready. Like that's what's going to happen next. So it's a really fascinating time. I think if you cut through the bullshit and watch where people are going, like we just dropped out of the longest war in American history in Afghanistan, and our Pentagon budget went up 15%. So that's just the money we know about. The world is gearing up for the next wave, and we're going to see what happens between the two poles that have emerged.
Going back to that Swedish Norway army, that's going to have one hell of a volleyball team. Bill Geiser.
I think this is speaking of Ukraine in particular. It's a combination of what I'll call imperial hubris, and as Barack Obama was reputedly quoted as saying, "Never underestimate Joe Biden's ability to fuck things up," and he has totally fucked this up. This guy has misread the room. If you think about this, he completely underestimated Russia's resolve in this, and he's overestimated the Ukraine's capacity and appetite for war. We're propping them up. This is now a proxy war between the United States and Russia. We're doing all the funding, throwing all the weapons at them in a classic money laundering scheme where our defense contractors are getting rich and we're killing people left and right out of this thing. You know, in April 2022, there were reports, and this thing just broke about a month ago in the last month, that Zelensky and Putin had tacitly agreed to a settlement, and the Biden administration sent Boris Johnson in to torpedo the deal because the money train is still going on. Meanwhile, while we're getting weak, our allies are getting weak, Russia's getting weak, China is walking away unscathed in this deal. And Ed, would you tee up that thing I sent you?
Ed must be on the judge's Wi-Fi right now.
That's okay. I'll tell you what it is.
Sorry about that.
We know
Is it a
that's
picture
okay.
of Ed?
That's all right. No, it's a picture of Netanyahu, one of our strongest allies historically, shaking hands with the chairman of China. You know why? Because he can't depend on us. So they're looking for new shoulders to lean on in our moment of weakness and our inability to solve a problem that should have never started in the first place.
Jim Gingrich?
I agree with a lot of what Joe said, except there is one country that is not preparing, and it's called the United States. We've depleted our oil reserves to the point we couldn't fight a war. Our procurement to R&D is upside down. It's usually 2 to 1. In good times, it's like 1 to 2 right now. So we can't get stuff to market and procured as quickly as we need it. We've depleted our weapons and ammunition, sending it to Ukraine. We've increased our budget, inflation, and screwed all that up. So, you know, if I'm China right now, and everybody here seems to agree they're the threat, they could walk right in at this point if they wanted. I mean, we can't stop that right now. And actually, I don't know if anybody else saw this. There was allegedly another balloon yesterday that went over Montana that got reported to the DOD, and they're like, it's no big deal. It's just surveillance.
Judge,
I'll
either you have
research
gas or
that.
you've got a shit-eating grin on your face. Well, which one is it?
Well, I'm amazed. I thought with the Second Amendment and all of our arms, nobody could come in and take us over because we have all these rifles. So I think it's counterintuitive there. I mean, wasn't that the big argument for having an armed citizenry so we can stop those damn invasions at the beach with all of our guns?
Yeah, but then
It's
what
kind of
happened?
an elementary discussion, Judge. Jesus, you can do better than that.
Joe, we'll finish up on Joe right now.
Complete turnaround from the Second Amendment arguments that I'm always hearing.
Jim?
Well,
Sorry.
of course.
Hold on, Joe. Jim, you can reboot.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and fight if it comes here. It doesn't mean we'll win. I mean, how do we win against gas and bombs and all that? The Second Amendment is more to keep our own government at bay, which, you know, if you look at the FBI and what Idaho just did and basically said they need disbanded, we don't want to listen to them. That's more what it's for. But I mean, yeah, I just think you have better arguments than that. China's strong, and China could do what they want right now, especially in our weakened state.
Let's go with Joe, and then we're going to go to commercial, Ed.
I just always get so confused because it feels like sometimes like Biden is this almighty master puppet in the background, destroying deals and controlling the British prime minister. And other times he's walking around like he's got shit in his pants and can't do anything right, and no one takes us seriously. So, yeah, it's just hard to know which way it goes, but I think he's just like another figurehead. And realistically, like, the United States military has never been more prepared for whatever comes next. Oh, except for the soldiers. I don't think we have enough soldiers. So I guess we'll see how we resolve that in my lifetime.
All right. On that note, Ed, take us to commercial.
Hi, my name is Harvey Laguerre, host of Men of the Prize. Here on NGBN, on this show, Black men discuss our unique struggles, what we've gone through to become the men that we are today, and we do it in a safe space. So if you want to see Black men discussing our unique issues, give us a try. And if you want to tell us about your unique struggles, get on here and tell us all about it. Talking is the key. My name is Harvey, and you are the man, and you are the prize. Now back to the show.
Welcome back to Decades, your new favorite show on the NGBN.TV network. Make sure you're following us. We now have a LinkedIn page on the Decades. We also have YouTube, so make sure you subscribe and share to Decades on YouTube and LinkedIn. My name is Chris Rubio. Welcome back to Jay Gaskell, Bill Geiser, Jim Gingrich, Alex Chris, Joe Nolan, Charles Wallace Jr., and Cruz Rubio. We're going to wrap this show up with, let's talk about Gay Pride Month. It's June 27th. This will air June 28th, which is tomorrow. So essentially, we have the 28th, 29th, and 30th left of Gay Pride Month. Am I wrong, or did it seem like this one was just a little bit more ramped up than usual? I mean, the first question is, why is not being, let's say, hetero deserving of an entire month? That's one question that we could ask right off the bat. Charles Wallace, we'll start with you and Cruz because you're the younger ones, and this seems to be almost, I don't want to say your guys' thing, but your Decades kind of thing.
It ain't my thing.
Pushing it that way. So, Charles?
It's tough. I have never understood it. I don't understand why we need all these different months for all these different things. It's that slippery slope fallacy where, it started out, we just want to be left alone, right? We just want to be able to love as we love. We want to be left alone. And now it's, we're going to ride bikes naked through the streets and your kids are going to look at our dicks. And if you don't like it, fuck you. So that's where we're at with it right now. I'm a guy in his 20s. I know people my age are more than tired of it. We're more than fed up. The problem is that you get conditioned that if you speak up on it, if you stand up against it, that you're the bad guy, that you're a bigot, that you're this phobic or that phobic. And they're just going to keep trying to, push it on you and jam it down your throat until enough people stand up. And that's what it's going to take. We got to stand up and just have enough. They're literally riding bikes through the streets with their genitals out exposed to children. What more needs to happen before we put an end to it?
That's got to be an uncomfortable ride. Cruz, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, no, very similar to what Charles was saying. I mean, you're dealing with a group of people here, a minority group of people that if you disagree with their beliefs, then you're racist, you're a bigot, like Charles was saying, you're everything. So they're using these words, but at the end of the day, what they're doing is they're demeaning these words. If just because you believe, or let me say, in their sense, just because you disagree with what they believe, you're not transphobic, you're not racist, not this. I believe that trans people can be people. I think that they can exist and whatever, but I'm not a fan of, like what Charles was saying, riding around with your dicks out. It's not. There's got to be some barriers between where it's okay for you to exist, but it's not okay for you to ride the streets with kids or in front butt naked or old guys twerking in front of kids. It's just, there has to be a barrier.
Speaking of old guys twerking, Judge.
Funny. I don't know. I appreciate the 20s opinion here, but I think all the polls show that the younger you are in the United States down to the 20s, the more in favor overall they are for the gay pride acts and tolerance. I think, anytime you have in the world countries that kill people because they're gay, you've still got stuff to fight for and to try to make equal. So it doesn't bother me that there's a gay pride month, and I think every other month is a hetero pride month, if you will. So
is it called hetero pride month? Or is there hetero pride parades that I've missed? I mean, what's going on there? And where are they getting killed?
Are you kidding me? There's legislation in several countries that have.
Yeah, countries, I know, but I'm talking about America.
African countries.
I know, but we're talking about in America.
Pardon me?
I'm talking about in America. I thought it made you say like it was here.
No, But if you're gay here and gay people are getting killed over the world, I think it's a little different than being a white male. There's nobody killing white males.
Well,
just 'cause
there's
they're
people
white
dying
males.
all over the world everywhere. There's right-handed people getting killed in
Not because,
Baltimore.
not because you're heterosexual. You're not being killed or sentenced to death because you're heterosexual.
But how do you know that?
Because all you got to do is look at the news.
Only if you're a conservative.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You can't look at the news. Cruz, we'll go Cruz and then Chalice. It seems we're opening up a can of worms here.
Yeah, kind of to go off what Judge is saying, with a lot of young people kind of and polling this and polling that. I don't think it's because we have a choice. I think it's either we support it or we get kicked out of class because we don't agree with it. There's an argument here that's being made, and it's like, oh, well, the polls say this because it's so accepting and we're accepting of this. And it's like, well, we don't have a choice, because if we don't, we lose our jobs. I mean, and we don't, you get kicked out of school. You don't, you get, there's tons of different things that are being made where it's like, oh, if you don't accept this group of people, which is such a small percentage of the world's population, less than 2% of the people take up this group, and we're just supposed to accept everything that they say and everything that they do. It's idiotic, and I think a lot of times people are suppressing their voices to just follow along and agree with this group.
Chalice?
Yeah, I mean, if there are countries in the world, right, where you're still killed for being homosexual, then what I would challenge the homosexuals here to do is go there and march. You're in places where you have rainbow crosswalks. You're in places where you can lose your job for not. There was an MLB pitcher who his stats weren't the greatest, but he was basically cut for sharing a conservative viewpoint on his Instagram and then not being willing to catch the first pitch at Pride Night for the Toronto Blue Jays. So let's not act like in the United States of America and Canada, in Western countries, that these people are oppressed. They're like sacred cows at this point. Go to these countries where you'll get killed and you'll get beheaded. Go march there and tell us how that goes for you. Here at home, don't jam it down our throat. I'm tired of hearing about it.
And I think it's weird how you get someone like Joey B or the press secretary, I can't pronounce the name, where they'll say, there's all this litigation that's come out, all these laws that are stopping the trans and the gay movement, but they never say what the laws are. And then they'll say, Joey B said at the gay pride thing at the White House, you've got someone who can get married during the day and at night they can't go into a restaurant. Where? What restaurant is he talking about? Is there a certain Arby's that I don't know about that the gays can't eat at? What's happening here? Jim Gingrich?
Well, that's in Lewiston, probably, if anywhere. But I know about 10 years ago, I got a misdemeanor charge of indecent exposure. Thankfully, it got released for lack of evidence, but it just goes to show you that was a thing. Now you got all kinds of naked guys walking around.
Jim, you don't want to say indecent exposure and then lack of evidence in the same sentence.
Yeah.
If only the cop had forgot his microscope.
Yeah, exactly. So, that was meant to be funny, but the point is, I'm sure the judge saw cases like that at some point, and now we're fine. It's all over the internet with, naked guys walking in front of kids and hanging out in places. And I'm not comfortable with that. Again, I don't care about your sexual preference. Never have. Don't care who you love, but stay the fuck away from kids.
Ed?
There was, to your point about the restaurants, just to add my 2 cents, there was a caterer who it was big in the news, who refused to cater a gay couple's wedding reception. And that's, I think, one of the things that whoever it was
and they lost the case. The bakers lost in the end.
Okay,
but my whole point to that is that they feel that kind of repression. If you go with your wife or you wouldn't feel that. That's part of it. That's part
of it.
Okay,
and I understand that, but I'm saying on the same note, if you went to a black caterer and said, I'm having this huge KKK rally and I'd like 19 KKK cakes, can you make those for me real quick? And I want your whole entire group to wear these hoods. Would they agree to do that, or would they say, get the hell out of here, man? We're not making those.
Depends on what price they're paying. It's all about money.
You think Jimmy Mack would cater that? No way.
No.
I don't know.
I don't think
so.
You
would
not.
No,
I know.
Joe, you have your hand up. I can't see you behind my camera now. Go ahead. Yeah, Joe.
Yeah, I just think like the actual history of Pride is sort of a beautiful thing. It was in response to the Stonewall riots in 1969 on the first anniversary in June 28th, 1970. They marched because they fought against the oppression, the sodomy laws that made it illegal for gay people to be just themselves. The entire society was against them. This wasn't a long time ago. This was 50 years ago. Pride was originally described as the time that you could have queer joy, like actually enjoy life and happiness because you're in a safe environment with other people just like you. And you can feel this way that I feel as a heterosexual man as every single day. I mean, gay marriage only became legal in 2012. Like it hasn't even been 3 presidential terms yet. Like, let's not pretend this is the long ago past. Like Reagan was still killing people with AIDS in the 80s. Like the truth is that if there is a Scottish pride parade or a Norwegian pride parade, I'm not going to go, but I'm not going to be upset that it happens in my town or if someone advertises to it. Like if I did, then I'm bigoted against Norwegian people. Like that's the end of the day what's happening, because there's no one that's beating anything down your throat. There's no one that's making you go to a pride parade. There's no one that's making you drink a Bud Light. It's still a free country. But guess what? People are making economic decisions. And on the other side, I mean, like pride has been overly corporatized. I mean, the actual queer community makes fun of June, you know, and everyone on both sides makes fun of the rainbows coming and going June 1st and June 30th. But at the same time, like the core of pride is something that is trying to be corrupted, but it's the sense of this 1 month a year that they get to feel pride and joy that we get to feel just by being a part of a community.
Why can't they?
I'll tell you this. The other thing is, like, you might not even know what other months are. Like the official month of May. Do you know what that is? Does anyone know what the month of May is? It's Armed
the
Forces.
500, Indy 500 month.
No, it's the Armed Forces Service month. Like it's literally the month before.
We're agreeing around we're coming around the wrong way, but we're agreeing on that. Where yes, we Armed Forces month. That'd be great. I totally stand behind that. But no one talks about it. Okay, that's the big thing that no one talks about. Number one, and number two is
whose fault is that?
Queer people's. Okay, number one, having the whole month is just bizarre to me. Okay, number two, if I went to a 4th of July party or 4th of July parade, and all of a sudden Uncle Sam's walking around with his junk hanging out, I'd be like, what's happening here? Okay, but we're supposed to just at the gay pride say, well, you know, Mr. Happy's out. What are we doing here? Okay, I'm going to go to Charles Walls because he was about to have a conniption over there. And then I got you, Bill.
Yeah, I mean, just in response to Joe, if gay marriage has only been legal since 2012, and we're already at the part of the plot where they're riding around naked on bicycles for a month, where are we going to be in another 10 years? That's like, I don't understand.
The naked bicycle ride in Philly has nothing to do with LGBTQ. It has to do with a bicycle coalition and safe streets.
I think he's talking about
the fact that in other parts of the country, in other parts of the country, there are pictures. I can send pictures in the group chat. I'll censor them of naked men in front of children at pride parades.
Everywhere.
I don't understand. Like, oh, it's one love. It's this, it's that, it's the other. But you have a whole month, right? And in this month, you can't even keep your dick in your pants. What is there to be proud of? It's just your sexuality. I don't go around talking about, oh, yeah, I'm doing this sexually and that sexually. Nobody does that. Normal people don't do that. There's no reason to have a month where you have to parade through the street butt naked telling us who you want to have sex with. There's no reason why you need to go and cut your genitals off or cut your boobs off and try to tell me that you're the opposite gender when everybody knows that you're not. Everybody knows that this is a crock of shit. I don't know why we try to pretend and appease these people and we don't just tell them, mind your business. You wanted to be left alone. Cool. Do what you want to do in your own bedroom. Stop forcing it down everyone's throat because it is being forced down everyone's throat.
Bill Geiser, we're going to wrap up on Bill.
Yeah, I was going to say something similar to that. Look, no one here objects to the Pride Month, I don't believe. I know I don't. And I think that's the case for most Americans. It's all right. Whatever your sexual orientation is, that's great. The problem is this organization got hijacked by the progressive whack job element of it, and they're taking all the oxygen. These are the guys shaking their ass and twirling their dicks in front of kids, young kids. That's total bullshit. And no one on the Pride side says a fucking thing about it. Come on, man. Call them out. That's bullshit. That's wrong. If they want to live their lifestyle, great. But leave the fucking kids alone. And when you go across that line, whatever you get, you deserve. Speak up.
I think we're definitely going to come back to this topic because we're definitely not done with it. We'll have to do it not in Gay Pride Month, obviously, but we'll do it next time. We'll come back to this because I feel like we've got a lot more to talk about this. Ed, you can zoom yourself in right now. This was a very good discussion on the threat of national security from abroad, Hunter Biden, and Gay Pride Month. Ed, who was the winner tonight? No, you cannot choose me.
Oh man, I was going to choose you. You know, I had you. I was going to. That was my surprise. All right,
Hold on,
I
I think
can't
Joe's
choose
praying
you.
that he wins.
What's that?
No, I've accepted that I'm the Teddy Roosevelt in this race.
No, I am actually. Chalice brought us strong again tonight, and as the rookie of the group, we'll give it to him for panelist of the night.
Good job, Chalice. Guys, you guys did a great job. Remember, everyone that's watching, please subscribe on YouTube and LinkedIn. Share the Decades page, and make sure you check out the NGBN.TV network. To Chalice, guys, great discussion tonight. We'll agree to disagree on a lot of things.
Right.
Cheers.
Great job, guys.
Cheers.